Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast with Character. I am your host, Alexis Boyette, and joining me today, I have Vance Morris. He is my very special guest, and he is a Disney expert, and he has so much experience. So I'm really excited to introduce him to you all. So thank you so much for being here today, Vance.
Oh, I'm excited. I think we'll have a little bit of fun today.
Yeah, and I know we've recorded a few podcasts, and the last podcast that we recorded actually didn't record properly, and we had no audio. So this is take two.
Take two. I'm ready for it.
Let's do it. So let's just start off with little Vance. Tell me about your upbringing, where you grew up, and what inspired you as a child, and if those same inspirations are a part of your everyday life now.
Sure thing. So I was a wee lad growing up in a log cabin, or is that it's too far back, right? Um, no, you know, middle class neighborhood in New Jersey, and really had a good entrepreneurial upbringing, even though neither of my parents, they both had jobs. But I got a job when I was 12 or 13 delivering newspapers. And this is where I discovered that if you deliver good service, you get paid more. So if Mrs. Smith wanted the newspaper between the screen door and the storm door, well, by golly, that's where I put it, and I got a nice tip for doing that. So I learned early that if you deliver great service and really just do what people are asking, um, you can make money doing it. So that's what I did. I think everybody should have well, they don't have newspaper routes anymore, but 13, 14-year-olds, they really need to have a job to start their life off. Nothing crazy. I mean, a couple hours a day, whatever. But so I let's see. We can fast forward to college. I played in a rock and roll band in college that paid for school, and a few extra pennies left over for beer and oysters. It was actually, we were really close. We thought that we were going to make a go of it music wise, and of course I listened to my mother, and she said, no, you need to get a real job. So that's what I did. Um, but so I got my first job was managing a restaurant. Ooh, exciting. And I really hated where I was living. I hated my job. So I called a buddy of mine from college, and who happens to be a recruiter for the Walt Disney Company. And I said, hey, Doug, you got anything for me? He said, yep, come on down. That was the extent of my interview process with the Disney Company. So I don't think they do that anymore. I think it's a little harder to get in. Um, but spent a little over a decade working for the Mouse, primarily in the hospitality, food and beverage side of things. Duty manager for Pleasure Island, which it's no longer there, but there were 7 nightclubs on 5 acres on this little island out in the middle of a lake. And what could go wrong, right? Let's take a whole bunch of sunburned, malnourished, and dehydrated tourists and shove a beer in them and see what happens, which was pretty much what we did. And I left Disney. I'm living proof that you can leave that company and still survive out in the wild. Had a couple other jobs, realizing I make a lousy employee. I don't like to be told what to do. Which would also probably explain the first and second ex Mrs. Morris. And then, so I started my own businesses back in 2007 after getting fired, and haven't looked back since.
Wow, what a really cool story. Thank you so much for sharing. So let's go back to that newspaper route real quick. So how old were you whenever you had that newspaper route?
I remember my mother had to sign a whole bunch of papers, so I had to have been like 12 or 13 years old.
Wow. And then when you were in high school, did you also have a job?
I did. I lifeguarded. I still had the newspaper route because I could get it done before school. And the key thing about that is that my mother told me she was never going to do the route for me. So even when I was sick, she made me come along in the car, and I would do the route from her car. But she never once had to do it for me.
Wow. And what did your mom do for work?
She worked for community college, arts something or other. I don't know.
Okay. And so you just had this idea that you wanted to be of service ever since you were really young and that you could put food on your table and provide for yourself in exchange for that. Now, before we go into the rock and roll band, because we're getting ready to go into the rock and roll
Oh, geez. Okay.
band, what were your favorite characters as a kid and did they inspire you at all?
Sure. So, there was, of course, they had the Wonder Twins from Super Friends. Always loved those guys. I liked the dog more than I liked them, but yeah, Underdog was my character of choice. Always looked up to that little guy.
And is it because he was the underdog and yet he still managed to help people?
He always managed to help people, and he always got the girl.
Amazing. And was he usually underestimated?
Oh, all the time. Yeah, as a superhero, he was almost like Clark Kent without Superman. He was just like kind of this nerdy guy walking around, and but he still managed to get Penelope. Was it Molly? Penelope? Somebody was his gal, and at the end of every episode, he managed to wander off with her.
And do you relate to underdog in the sense of, do you feel like you were also underestimated?
I think so. Yeah, I had my um, I had some little bit of music ability, but and I think that was underestimated when I was in high school because it didn't really come out until I was in college. Um, but yeah, teachers, as much as they say that they're your proponent, a lot of them underestimate what a lot of kids can do.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Especially the entrepreneurial kids, the
Mhm.
creative kids, the ones that don't necessarily test well, or, the ones that talk too much in class, you
Hey, that
know,
was me.
Yep, exactly. And, I was to say, I feel like every entrepreneur is the same because all of us have, I don't think that traditional schooling really, it doesn't cater to entrepreneurs. It doesn't encourage entrepreneurs. And I hope that the schooling system improves. I've actually had that conversation with many of my other guests because we're all like, hey, we had ADD and like we didn't learn the same as everyone else and nobody paid attention and we felt like we
Right.
were stupid. When in reality, we weren't stupid. We were very smart, but we weren't smart in the sense of we could test well. We followed a curriculum, and that's not really how it works, right? So we think outside of the box, which moves us right along into people underestimating you in high school and underestimating your music ability. Tell me more about how you first got into the band and why you were passionate about it. What did you do in the band, and how your peers treated you in high school whenever you said that you were pursuing this?
Yeah. So I mean, it was just a couple of us got together, and one guy said, "Yeah, I play drums." I said, "Oh, great! I play bass guitar." Great. Let's find a guitar player and a singer and see what we can do. We were just gonna, fart around. We didn't really think we were gonna become anything. And sophomore year, we actually got four of us together that we actually clicked and gelled, and we started the band. So played all around town, played and then started playing around New England. Had a really good time with that. Actually, was able to make enough money to pay for college. So yeah, I mean it beats delivering pizza. I can tell you that. Um, but yeah, I mean certainly, when I told friends back home that I was in a band and we were playing gigs out at bars and things like that and nightclubs. They're all, really? You? Right? Really? You? Yeah, me. So we had some original stuff. We had two albums, and we were really close to going out on the road till somebody asked me, "Don't you think you should get a real job?" Fine, I'll get a real job. So but yeah, no, nothing like being on stage. It's probably the most incredible feeling, performing and just doing that kind of stuff. I loved it.
Wow. And what kind of music was it?
So this was back in the late 80s. So this was all of the 60s, 70s, and 80s, rock and roll, some new wave stuff, uh, in excess and police and U2 and all that kind of stuff. So
Okay. And what age did you start playing bass?
I actually started in college. So I played guitar through, through middle school and high school, but we found a bunch of guitar players, but we didn't have a bass player. So I said, well, hell, I'll do it. So,
Oh, so cool. And when you first started playing guitar, were there any artists in particular that you really looked up to?
okay, this is going to sound really corny. John Denver.
Oh,
Oh God, I mean, he was, for acoustic guitar and what he was doing. I mean, he's a little nerdy, but yeah, really, some of his songs are really powerful. I loved it.
wow. Okay. And
Besides that, my
so
mother wouldn't play any other rock albums in the house, so
no Queen?
not until I got out of the house. So,
Okay. So John Denver.
John
So
Denver was as risque as we got.
how did he inspire the way that you played guitar?
Well, he plays it with an energy, that uh, I mean, you can feel that he's really passionate about the music that he's playing. Um, and it comes through. I mean, Take Me Home, Country Roads is one of them. And he just sounds like he's having a lot of fun and he's not forcing anything and he's being true to who he is as this, mountain hick guy, boy, whatever. Um, I'm not saying that others didn't. It's just the sound. It's just the feeling I got. I listened to a couple other artists, and that sounds very formulaic. And oh, that sounds like a couple other songs or a couple other groups. So John was his own guy.
And when you were in college, when you were in university and you were still keeping the band going, you had basically funded your entire college journey with the money that your band made. And then you reached this pivotal point. Do I go out on the road or do I get a traditional job? Were there any stories or moments from maybe either of these people, so Underdog or John, that you could pull from that would have inspired you to maybe take in the road path?
Yeah, I think by the time I was in college, I had already forgotten about John. Certainly had forgotten about Underdog. I mean, just the way life is.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I remember we did a few. We were doing a summer tour, and I remember we didn't have enough money for the hotel, and we hadn't played yet, so we hadn't gotten paid yet. So we went clamming in just in Massachusetts, and we sold the clams so we had enough money to get the hotel room for the night.
Wow, that's resourceful.
No, it was either that or sleep in my 73 Volvo wagon, which was not exactly comfortable.
And the other band members, whenever you guys reach this point, do we take it one step further? Do we, follow a traditional path? Did any of them feel like they really wanted to go out on the road, or how did the other band members influence the
Couple did.
decision?
Yeah, a couple did. Actually, one of the guys I played band with in high school went on, and he uh, ended up being the bass player for a group called Tonic. I don't know if you remember them. So yeah, he lived his dream. He went out and he did it. I don't know that he ever held a job other than playing music, which I don't say I'm envious, but man, that's cool.
Yeah. Do you still play music and bring it into what you're doing now?
I don't. I listen to music. I do listen to Queen quite a bit.
Of
Actually,
Queen.
my son, when he was 5 years old, could sing the entire song of Fat Bottom Girls.
Wow, that's
So that's
impressive.
how much we played Queen in the car, at least. And I don't know that his teachers were thrilled with that, but But yeah, no, I had a lot of fun. I mean, music's, I mean, it's part of my life almost all day long. Still have a lot of equipment. Would you like to buy some? I have some speakers and stuff I can sell you real cheap.
Vance, am I supposed to put this in my suitcase or just carry it on my back?
There you go.
Okay, so we've made the decision to follow the traditional path rather than pursue being in the band, and that was the decision that we made. Do you think that if one of these stories, if Underdog or John would have come into your memory at this pivotal time, do you think that would have influenced you choosing to go out on the road or choosing
I
a
think
traditional
so
path?
because I mean, Mama was the one who was pushing me, and I think if I had somebody else yapping in my other ear, saying, "Ah, get out there and try it. You know, you only live once. Get out there and try it." Um, I probably would have, maybe not with the same group of guys, but I would have made myself somewhere, made another band, and done what we had to do.
Do you ever consider doing it now?
Oh gosh, no, no, no time. I wish I had the time.
Well, let's talk about how you spend your time now because you worked at Disney and now you're doing incredible things. I remember in one of the podcasts we recorded, you gave great insight as to how you help people and guide them to be exceptional in the service that they provide. So tell me a little bit about how this journey started and what you love most about it.
Sure thing. So actually, for my consulting stuff, started when I was in a mastermind group, and we were going around the table, telling everybody what we did and our backgrounds and everything. And after a few hours, there's this business coach to orthodontists who said, I would pay you to take me around Disney. I'm like, great. Let's set it up. So that was my first consulting job. Took I don't know 30 orthodontists down to Disney and did a little bit of in classroom, a little bit of touring through one of the parks, and a business was born. So I still had my home service businesses here in Maryland, which I couldn't ignore. So the consulting thing slowly grew. And then you know, from that first one, I actually picked up a number of other Disney events. So it's one of the big things I do is take business groups down to Disney for 3 or 4 days, a full immersion boot camp. Um, and it's really become a big part of what I do every year. Um, so yeah, that's a lot of fun. But really taking what I learned, I think one of the things that separates me from a lot of other consultants is I actually own some businesses that everything I'm talking about, I'm not just yapping to hear myself yap. I'm actually doing it in real bricks and mortar businesses. So it gives me a little bit of street cred. Says, hey, stuff you're doing, yeah, here it works. I've just proven it works. Or hey, it didn't work, but maybe it'll work in your industry. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
been an interesting ride.
And tell me a little bit about what you do at Disney.
So my last job at Disney, I was food and beverage manager at the Contemporary Resort. So I had a number of restaurants and room service and a lounge that I was responsible for. And I was on the design team for a little restaurant called Chef Mickey's, which was one of those character dining destinations where the characters come up to you and do the autographs and everything like that. That was a lot of fun.
And how is it that you walk people through the park whenever you have a team of orthodontists? Like, what is it exactly that you're helping them with?
Well, so most orthodontists that I know, they don't own a roller coaster, they don't own a theme park, and so they do ask, well, why do I want to copy what Disney's doing? And you don't want to copy what Disney's doing. You want to adapt what they're doing, or any really good service provider. I mean, Apple, Harley Davidson, whoever. Um, Figure out how to adapt what they're doing into your business. So my job really is okay, see all these lines and how people are waiting. Great. So what do people wait for in your business? And how do you make the wait not feel so bad? Disney has line entertainment where they entertain you in line. whether they have characters or there's, little interactive things to play with, or you connect to one of their apps. It just kind of makes time go by a little bit faster. With the orthodontists, again, they were, I said, do people have to wait for stuff? And they go, yeah, they're usually waiting for me. I said, okay, great. Well, how do we fix that? How do we make that wait not feel so bad? And how can we get rid of the wait altogether? So it's kind of taking those things from one industry and plugging it into another.
So important. And I mean, these customer service touch points, they're everything, right? I know for me, I'm really passionate about gamification because I feel like people are getting bored. They're getting bored with everybody doing things the same way. And I know, if you mind sharing the story about, was it the oil change company?
Oh yeah.
Okay, you've got to share that one because that one's
All
the
right.
best.
Sure. And this is really a example of exactly what it is I do with businesses. And so if you've ever been to an oil change, you'll know that it's a highly commoditized. Everybody does it the same. You drive in, they change the oil, they make you wait in the stinky little room with the 3-day-old coffee and last month's newspaper and everything. You pay the greasy guy and you leave, and you got your oil change. You don't have to do it again for 5,000 miles. Well, my guy was a independent, so he wasn't like a Jiffy Lube, Quick Lube kind of guy, and he was just getting beat up on price. I mean, every time those guys ran a discount, he had to run one. It was just a race to the bottom. And so I told him, I said, well, there is no competitive advantage to being second cheapest, because that doesn't work as a headline. Hey, yeah, we're second cheapest. Come see us. No, they're going to go find the cheapest guy. I said, go the other direction. So we created an experience out of getting your oil changed. And we set it up like a 1950 style service station. And 4 guys run out and they got little white shirts and bow ties on. And one guy squeegeeing your windshield. The other one's checking the air pressure in your tire. One escorts you into the waiting room, which actually has today's newspaper. And there's also a barista in there making your favorite coffee drink. And the barista is actually one of the oil change guys. They just rotate that job every other day or whatever. And so the owner has now been able to increase his prices well over 50%. It's close to 55% increase in prices, more than the other guys are making. He's managed to improve his employee retention, because they're serving a little bit less people, but there's not as much wear and tear on the building, wear and tear on the employees, and they're attracting a much better clientele, people that appreciate the kind of service, the level of service that they're delivering. And he now has customers for life, raving fans that say, oh my God, you'll never guess what happened at the oil change today. I got the best, frappa macchiato thing, better than Starbucks. And an oil guy made it for me. And so really, really driving the word of mouth marketing, staying top of mind. Yeah, he's one of my poster children for what I do.
So you've told me about Underdog, you've told me about John, you've told me about Disney and how all these different companies and characters made an impact on Vance. What would you say were the biggest milestones that you learned from each of these people or characters or companies throughout your journey? And how has that impacted how you run your businesses today?
Sure. Well, I think certainly with with my boy Underdog, he has a certain level of tenacity, and that is something that I have no what's the word I'm looking for? I have a lot of it. I have an abundance. I could share some tenacity with you if you would like some, because once I put my my nose to the grindstone and get going, it is, it's pretty hard to stop me. So, and I found that in all the jobs I had when I worked at Disney. I'm found. I don't know. I took one of those career tests or one of those psychological tests, said I like to create things. You don't like to stick around and work them, but you like to build them. and then move on. I'm like, that's me. So it's probably why I don't make a good employee either. Um, is that I just like to create something and then skip the maintaining part and go make something else new. This served me well. So, I mean, instead of having one home service business, I got three. Instead of having just that, I now coach and consult. I don't think I'm going to add anything else right away. But the tenacity was probably the biggest thing that I got from my character, and then just plowed along. I mean, I think it's a great idea. I'm going to keep going until there's a brick wall where I die and or go over it, around it, whatever I need to do.
Incredible. And what would you say your biggest takeaway from John was?
Again, I think just being true to yourself. I mean, he didn't try to be a rock star. He didn't try to be Neil Diamond. He was just, a dude in a plaid shirt and a little puffy vest and, playing his heart out with some country. Wasn't even really country music. It was more mountain music, I guess. And just stay true to himself. I think that's, I've never tried to be somebody else. I've seen people try to be something they are not, and then they fail colossally, or they're miserable because now they got to pretend to be something that they're not, and they got to keep up appearances. Yeah, no, just being true to yourself, 100%.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Vance. And honestly, I can see how every single one of these characters and companies has shaped who you are and your mission, as well as your impact in the world. For anybody who's listening that would love to go to Disney with you and work with you, where can they find you?
Yeah, my website is vancemorris.com. So pretty easy URL there. And then I do have a free gift for everybody, which is the 52 ways to wow your customer without breaking the bank. So you got one wow for every week of the year. And you can find that at wow52ways.com.
Perfect. And before we sign off today, for whoever's listening who might be at that pivotal point where they could either take their show on the road or they could choose career and stability, what piece of advice would you give them?
Don't listen to your mother. Oh, you want like a
Perfect.
real answer? Well, one, I would say don't listen to your mother. Um, but if you've got a perfect example, my second oldest son is 23. When he was 18, he announced, "I'm going to Germany to visit my girlfriend." Well, one, I had no idea he had a girlfriend, nor did I know she was in Germany. And by the way, he was leaving the next week. So I'm like, good for you, son. Just go have at it. So yeah,
Amazing. You're just like, yep, go live your life.
do it. Do it.
Thank you so much. I know that whoever is listening probably really needed to hear that today. Thank you so much for joining me today, Vance. You are incredible, and I'll make sure to put all the links in the show notes below so everyone can find you. And hopefully, I'll be seeing you very soon.
Cool. Thanks, Alexis. I appreciate it.